when we talk about the business, again, that's I don't treat this like a hobby. And again, too many people out there think, oh no, it's only a hobby, it won't last. If you treat something like a hobby, well, guess what? People will respect it like a hobby.
G'day, this is George Fourie and welcome to another Martial Arts Media business podcast. So today I'm joined with a special guest, Greg Probyn. So Greg is someone that I'm fortunate enough to work with on a frequent basis in our partners program. And I'll give you a bit of a background on Greg, and then I'm going to let him run the show. So Greg is a military man, have served in both the Royal Australian Navy and the Australian Regular Army, travelled extensively around the world, and has deployed operationally to Iraq, Afghanistan, and Fiji. Greg started his BJJ journey in 2008, and due to being in the military, trained and gained experience from many different clubs throughout Australia. So Greg also enjoys competing and coaching. More importantly, enjoys coaching kids, helping them develop confidence so that if they are placed in an intimidating situation or being bullied, they can say, stop. Awesome. So Greg, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, George. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So, it's worth mentioning or not worth mentioning. This is our round 2 of recording this. So we've had a good practice run. So you're in for a awesome show, and I won't go into the details why, but this is round 2. So this is going to be good. So Greg, I've given a bit of an intro just about you. You mind sharing just a bit more? Just a bit of your background and how you got into this jiu-jitsu journey.
Yeah, sure, George. This is kind of ironic as well for me because of all the times I've listened to your podcasts, and I always hear that question, so who are you? I always sit there and I go, I wonder if I'll ever have that question asked of me. Father, husband, I'm a veteran now. I have been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu since 2008. I spent 3 months shy of a full 25 years of a military history or career. It's given me so many different things. I'm very much indoctrined in terms of the way people think, not necessarily outside of a box, but when things are black and white, I'm the go-to man there. By that I mean, if it's not policy, it doesn't happen, And I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has given me a fantastic way to show people that, not everything's black and white. So I'm fighting some of my own demons now that I'm out of the military. Yeah.
So spending all that time in the military, how does that complement your jiu-jitsu training? And I guess sorry, and I guess just to give context, because military, I think very sort of precision thinking and very strategic, clear-cut plans, preparation, etc.
Yeah, you're right on the money there, mate. So I started my career in the military in the Navy, and I finished up doing a job that of a fitness trainer or a physical training instructor, or a PTI they call them for short. You can't just join the military directly into that role. You have to spend several years in another job. So I was what they called a bosun's mate in the Navy. I did that for about 8 years, and then saw these guys that worked in gymnasiums over that time and just managed to work on their fitness and take a lot of people for their fitness. And I thought, well, why not give that a crack? So I spent the remainder of my years, 8 years in the Navy, doing that, and then I transferred across to the Army and did the same job, finishing up there. So it was really easy to transfer the skills that I'd received as a physical training instructor across to being a coach in the sporting sector. I'm also pursued different levels of coaching within the civilian sector, doing like certificates and diplomas, and it was really it was fantastic in that when I did my strength and conditioning coaches courses. I was stuck in a classroom with maybe some university students or people that had done a little bit of work in the civilian sector in terms of the fitness industry, and you sit there going, wow, I've got it easy because I've got people that have to be there in terms of doing their own health and fitness stuff. I don't have to worry too much in terms of what people can't do, because they're all fit and healthy, and then the ability to transfer what I'd learned into training for the defence. That was again easy because you're able to back what you're doing up with current studies or current technique, as opposed to maybe having to do the cheeky thing and get waivers for people, because they accept what you're giving them is going to be good for them, and well, it is. The proof's in the pudding. The Australian Defence Force has been a feared fighting nation, or a feared fighting force, since the Boer War. So maybe you got relatives back there, George, who might have come across a couple of Aussies back in the day.
Possibly, yeah. Okay, so then with training in the military, right? When jiu-jitsu is quite a physical thing, one thing that's always fun when sparring jiu-jitsu is even if you go 100%, you've got the saving grace of just tapping out, and you can just take the foot off the pedal, and you always set the pace. Normally the pace starts as a light roll, and then it never ends in a light roll, right? So, okay. but then training in the military, you're training at a whole new level and a whole new purpose, and I guess the stakes are real, right? Because it's life and death that you are dealing with. So how do you actually train at that intensity and without burning people out?
Yeah, good question. I guess to answer that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewind the clock to about 2008. Now, I've been involved in martial arts since about 1989. Started doing various forms of karate, and then I went to Muay Thai, and I found Muay Thai is a very practical martial art or sport, fought nationally and internationally. And then I had a hiatus of roughly 8 to 10 years, and then thought, bugger this, get back into the training for Muay Thai and recommence my fighting. And at the time I was working at the Australian Defence Force Physical Training School, which is on the Mornington Peninsula in Victoria. And you've got, you could say, the best of the best physical training instructors lecturing all aspects of health and fitness to people that are aspiring to do the job that I do or did. So you'll either work on what's passionate to you, or if you're not, if you want to work on something new or improve your knowledge, you'll research a specific topic. So some of the topics that I used to lecture on were strength and conditioning, factors affecting human performance, and they were quite big modules in their own right. And at that time, there was the military self-defense program, which was headed by the Army. And at this stage I was still in the Navy, and I had to do the course because the role of the physical training instructor was required to undertake this, because in the Navy at the time there was a lot of boarding operations going on. Now, what the Army had noticed was, the field of operation for them, heavy in Afghanistan, at the time, and Iraq, they'd had this close quarter combat course, and then but it was only the special forces that were really getting involved in it. The infantry units were doing forms of self-defense, but the Army, they initiated this military self-defense program. Now, it was heavily based on self-defense, and there were components of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in it. And when I did it, the military unarmed combat cell they came down to HMA Cerberus, where I was at the time. I got involved in the course, and I hit it off with some of the instructors because they knew that I was fighting Muay Thai at the time as well. One of the instructors is like, come with me, I'll show you this thing called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now, I'd seen the UFC and I'd had a couple of little books of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but really it didn't sort of, because of my limited knowledge, it didn't float my boat. Went and did this one lesson and I was just totally dominated. And I couldn't believe the control. I couldn't believe how an individual could move or escape from somebody that would be heavier than them, bigger than them, how to control a bigger, stronger opponent. And I don't think at the time in the military self-defense course, we'd done the groundwork components. And then the next day or the day after, we're doing, basic guard escape or mount escape or controlling your opponent whilst on the ground. And I was like, yep, hook, line and sinker. It's got me. And, this military self-defense course, when I transferred from the Navy to the Army, it became even more apparent of how important it was. I mean, the Navy were using it, but it's very, very difficult to do it on a very small boat. And at the time, this was when Australia's policy on the control of illegal immigrants or the boat people were coming across. And we'd seen through the news how people were throwing kids overboard and this and that. And, I mean, as much as the media sensationalised it, there was a threat. And the threat was only the young single males that had nothing to lose. But then when you're on a fishing vessel or a boat that's not even 20 metres long and there's, close to 150 people on it, this military self-defense program, it was very difficult to utilise because you can't keep your distance on a small vessel like that. If you need to do a high double leg takedown, well, you're not just going to take them down onto the deck, you're going to take them down onto about 4 or 5 other people. So it was difficult for the Navy to use. Although they were able to use aspects of it, when you go across to the Army, well, their field of play is totally different. But then as we move along in the level of intelligence that was being gathered in the Army and across the Navy and the Air Force, because they're also personnel on the ground from the other two services, but more from the infantry people, when they'd go to a compound and they'd notice that there was little to no women and children, well, they knew they were going in for a battle. It'd be the fighting-aged males, the adult males. They were always the threat. And if there was ever any sort of hand-to-hand sort of combat, well, the soldiers were able to utilise this military self-defence stuff. But what they noticed was it was too defensive. And it's progressed now into an integrated combat the integrated infantry combat course, I think it's called now, and all about control, very little defence. You're in someone's face with the full military garb, wearing helmets, the body armour. You've got your rifle. You're not working with one other person, but you're working in the section of 8 to 10 people. Whereas the military self-defense course, in some respects, as good as it was, the entire time you're only working with a second person through the program, not utilising the rest of a team. So, unfortunately, I never got to do the infantry combat course, but it was really, really interesting. Now, how do we link that into the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Well, after being totally dominated and seeing how that worked in the military self-defense course, it was a no-brainer for me. I was getting older. My opponents in Muay Thai were getting younger. It was taking longer for me to recover. And I found that again, just like you said, with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you're able to stop when you're either being uncomfortable or, you're having your arm ripped off your body. And now in the military, we've got these integrated combat clubs. And it's a way now for Army, Navy, Air Force people to get back to grassroots in terms of martial arts or some form of combative sport. And the transferability now, irrespective of whether you participate in the military self-defense course or the infantry combat course, is so easy. So now the soldiers, sailors and airmen, they've got the ability to be put under pressure in stressful positions or altercations and deal with it as they see. And then, if they end up in that field of operation, especially the on the ground, and not on the ground as in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on the ground, but in the area of operation, whichever that is, they're able to best handle situations and know tactically what they can do and how their body's going to respond.
Interesting. So, and it just reminds me, I don't know how legit this is, and depending on when you are listening to this interview, I train with a few people from the police force, and I mean they use jiu-jitsu all the time. For my international and American friends in Australia, the police don't carry guns. If I'm correct, we don't. I think some do.
Some states do, yeah. Victoria does. New South Wales does.
I know in WA it's more a thing of it's always hand control, and these guys use jiu-jitsu a lot. And I haven't checked how valid this resource is, but I saw an article floating around that it's going to be compulsory now for police. I know at least in WA, that's Western Australia where we are, that police will be doing jiu-jitsu as a compulsory activity as such.
Oh, send me over.
So cool. So I want to change gears here quickly. So Greg, Greg's school, the Being 100% Jiu-Jitsu, is in a little town called Wodonga. I believe 38,000 population.
Yeah, correct, George. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we've small town right on the Hume Highway, heading up to Canberra, Sydney, and we're right on the border. The Murray River obviously separates us from New South Wales, as well as the Hume Highway, and directly on the other side of the border, on the other side of the Hume Highway, is Albury. So there's roughly 60,000 people in that town. So with the two towns combined, we're looking at in excess of 100,000 people.
Gotcha.
Yeah, nice sleepy little town.
Awesome. So now, for a lot of people, when they hear you're in a town of 38,000, there's two mindsets of that, right? And I'd love to hear your mindset, but a mindset I hear often is it's a very lack mentality. We don't have enough people. We got too much competition. There's too many schools in too a close range. What's your take, and how do you view your business within a small town with small reach?
Yeah, I like that question. All right, so we're coming to the decision of having a business that is orientated towards the combat sports. Some people said, "No, you're crazy." I've got family members, workmates, ex-workmates now, that indicated that no, it wouldn't work in an area such as this one. And I'm not. I don't believe. I don't believe that it wouldn't work. It had to work, and the reason why I say that is because if I can get 1% of just Wodonga, well, that's only 380 people. There are some, and listening to the podcasts that you've punched out there, George, I mean, you've got some pretty successful people that you've interviewed, and I look at it like this: why can't I get 1%? And when you look at it like that, it's pretty inspiring. I think 1%, 1%. Why couldn't that occur? And then if you looked at the entire, if you put the two towns together, well, 1%, that's 1,000 people. And I've heard you interview people there that have got multiple schools. So when I first came to this idea, I was training at another facility, and I shared this dream of mine. Well, it's actually not mine, it's my wife's. So I'm very lucky in that respect. I shared this dream with him, and he didn't really take kindly to it. And we left not on the best terms, but I remember him saying that you'd never go full time here. The place is too small. And that's exactly what I said to him. Well, 1%. If I can't get 1%, there's something wrong. So I'm a third of that now. And we've been open not yet 2 years, which is I'm happy with. That 1% keeps driving me. 380 people, but we've got people that are travelling as far as 40, 50 minutes to come and train with us. In terms of my competition, and I was asked this last night, this same question. I said to this gentleman last night, I said, well, my competition is Aussie rules, swimming, hockey, water polo, believe it or not, it's huge here in this region, netball, and a little bit of rugby, and of course soccer. And he said, well, what about other Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? And I said, they're not competition. We've got to try and raise the profile of the sport. There's people out in this region that don't really know much about it. They'll see it on the UFC, think it's more of a thugs game. I laugh when I have MMA people come in. I just tell them MMA is a thug sport. Come and do something with a bit of finesse.
Sorry to all the MMA fans listening.
So he was really shocked, and there's an older guy who I'm not sure what sort of martial art he does. And I'm not sure how he drives his business model, but I don't look at him when I see him in his van and go, that's competition. I look at him and I go, let's band together and try and raise the profile of his karate, People say to me, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, martial art. And I said, well, you can look at it like that. I look at it as though it's a sport. I'm big on looking at it as a sport. I treat it like it's a sport. When I have people talk to me about the self-defense applications, I'm like, well, come down, because you're still going to get the same benefits out of it. I might talk about points in the class. I might talk about holding position for a certain amount of seconds to get your points. But at the end of the day, you're still able to, I took a class last night, we were doing transitions, and I shared with this woman, it was her first class, the knee on the belly, and I made a reference about it being points. I said, but if you want to look at it in a self-defense application, what better way to control a human? You got your knee on their chest, one hand might be controlling clothing or an arm, while the other hand's pulling out the mobile phone. You're calling 000, help, I need some help. So she walked away out the class thinking, oh wow, I never thought of it in these different aspects. But yeah, that 1%, I'll always refer back to that 1%. That's what I want.
That's awesome. And you brought something up that's, I really want to highlight this for any entrepreneur, and I guess anybody in business. The worst advice you can get is asking people in the workforce an opinion of you starting a business, because none of them are going to support it. And I don't think they mean bad intentionally. It's more a sense of they're dealing with their own internal dialogue of it's not possible for them, and they don't want you to get hurt or whatever the case. So it's easier to just shut you down and not support the idea or the dream. And I saw somebody post a quote yesterday. It was something about, it said, what will they say? And below it was, these words have destroyed more dreams than any other words. Because the focus is, you're influenced by what people say. And when you got this idea and you want to create this business and you think, I'm going to do this thing, and you've got this vision, but you've got this vision. And now you go tell a family member or somebody you care about. And it's just, I mean, that's the first people you want to tell, right? Because it's the people you care. And you're hoping for that support. But for most people, you just don't get it because it's just a completely different way of thinking and a completely different mindset, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now, I can't, I'm not going to talk too out of turn here because I might end up in deep water. But we've got some very close family who, when we talk about the business, again, that's I don't treat this like a hobby. And again, too many people out there think, oh no, it's only a hobby, it won't last. If you treat something like a hobby, well, guess what? People will respect it like a hobby. So when I talk to these couple of individuals about the business, one of them's very aggressive towards it, and the other one's very defeatist about it. And like over Christmas, it was like, oh, I didn't think you'd still be open this far down the track. And I'm just like, oh, how can you be like that? You know, just support what's happening.
Yeah, it's the typical tall poppy syndrome as well. And for I've mentioned it before, but for anybody in the States, tall poppy syndrome is the visual aspect of a crab in a bucket, pulling down anything that anybody that succeeds behind your level. The term exists of trying to pull them back down. It's almost like people want to see you succeed, but they don't want to succeed. They don't want to see you succeed more than them. So
that's it.
I want you to succeed, but once you go beyond me, I've got to pull you back. I've got to pull you back into my level of thinking and comfort zone.
Yeah, you're dead right. And look, you asked me that question in terms of like the military mindset, and I said, oh yeah, I think too much black and white. When this idea of having a business centered towards Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu popped up, well, I had to think straight away, well, what do I need to do in order to get this happening? You know, because I'm not just going to open a place up and people start coming in, we're training, and it's like, oh crikey's, I've got to pay the electricity bill. Well, I need money for that, and do I have it there? Or toilet paper. We've run out of toilet paper. How do I go there? Or even having stock on hand for to get people thinking with the green side of their brain in terms of the buying power, and the military doesn't really give you the opportunity to do business style type courses. So I had to go and research my own thing, and I found a company out there orientated towards the personal training industry. And I thought, because working in the fitness industry, no brainer. But how do I run a business? Okay. So I did a little bit of research, and I found this one company, and they're called the Max International College for Fitness Professionals. And I got in contact with them, and I said, look, I'm just after your business side of things. And well, they had this program, and you do your certificate 3 and 4 in fitness, you do your diploma of business and advanced diploma of business. And I said, well, I'm not interested in the fitness components because, I'm diplomaed up there and I've done this course and that course. And they're like, well, it's a whole complete package. It all sort of entwines and works with each other. And I thought, all right. I remember seeing somewhere or heard somewhere or something about if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And I thought, well, what have I got to lose? Do everything, because it's still going to give me that the business components that I needed. And this admittedly, being in the military, you're not walking around with people that are all happy and bubbly all the time, and because you got this, like a sergeant major, and they're all these grumpy people, and do this and do that, and just like you see in the movies, people getting their faces ripped off because they might have looked sideways wrong, or just poor timing. But these people were all happy and bubbly, and I remember saying to one of the directors, I'm like, is everybody like this all the time when I'm communicating with them? And he goes, yeah, that's right. Is that a problem? And I said, well, that's not reality. And he goes, in my world, it's a reality. In your world, you've got sharp edges and you've got nasty corners. So there's that black and white mentality. well, these people, they're not walking around with rose-coloured glasses. And I'm like, okay, I have to drop a few barriers, get on their boat, start paddling with them, because we're all going in the same direction. And this Max International College for Fitness Professionals paved the way in order for me to then get the business up and running and be successful. And it comes back down to what I said earlier. If you have your club or your whatever martial art that you're doing, and you treat it like the hobby, well, everybody else is going to treat it like a hobby as well. I mean, we've got people that have participated in other martial arts, and I remember when they first started training with us. Oh, Greg, do you want us to help clean the mats? And I'm like, no, dude, you're paying mat fees. That's part of the service I provide. I clean the mats, clean them regularly, because that's where we are, lying on the mat face down sometimes if you're unfortunate. But these people are like, oh yeah, but our last sensei made us do this, or our last coach used to make us do. I'm like, that's fine, but I hope you weren't paying the same amount of fees that you're paying now. And you can see them and they start thinking, and it's like, oh, okay. And then there's a bit more of respect that comes through as well. So I think people appreciate it more too when you have that professional outlook. And if you pave it professionally, make it professionally, well, people don't see it. Like the family, these other members within the family that I've got that are the negative ones, yeah, I mean, they haven't come and seen what I do and the way it looks. But we're not in a shed, we're not in a factory. I'm actually in an air-conditioned and heated facility. It looks pretty neat, I think. And well, anybody that walks in and walks out, I always get the compliment, wow, I never would have thought it'd be like this.
Awesome. So on that thinking of that planning and that black and white, I want to just, before we wrap it up, I quickly want to bring up something, your mission statement. So, and just to give it a bit of context, Greg works with us in our partners program, and part of our partners program, we've got we also build websites to make sure all our members got the right tools. So before creating the website, we always have an interview with the school owner and just ask a couple of questions so that we can formulate a good sales proposition on the website, that it's all customized. So a question we always ask, and it's a question that I never really get a straight answer, but I did with Greg, right? And the question is, what's your mission statement? And it's important for us to know, because then we can sort of get a good perspective of how the club owner sees it. So you nailed it, and you just, I was almost shocked that you had it sort of down to a T. Do you mind sharing your school's mission statement?
Sure. We rolled our vision and mission statement in together, and we've added our core values as well. So we foster a family ethos where each and every member feels part of the team environment, but more importantly, at home with like-minded people. We'll provide you the opportunity to improve your health and fitness and well-being through education and confidence building. Our core values, I like the acronym of TRIC, is teamwork, respect, integrity, and confidence. Yeah, and it does it, and it paves the way. You asked me earlier, George, about why this mission statement, and it gives me direction. It gives people that come in direction. We don't have any. Every club or academy or affiliate or whatnot, they have their cliques. We try and break those barriers down. Everybody is part of the family. I've got white belts that will say to a coloured belt that's visiting, where's your shoes if they're walking around barefoot off the mat, and people get shocked, and it's like, oh, yep, fair enough, we're in somebody else's house. And then if we've got somebody that's been negative within the group, it's not me, the head coach, that's trying to pull them back into line. It's other people. They're saying to them, well, here we do it like this. It'd be good if you like that. I'm really proud of the ethos that we've got on the mat, and I put that back down to the mission statement. It's all about being part of the family.
Good note for us to just wrap it up. Greg, thanks so much for being on the call. Thanks, and I'm glad that we nailed it this time. We'll get into that story later. But if people want to know more about you, where can they find out more about you, Greg?
Oh, fantastic, George. Well, we're all the W's at debeenjujitsuwodonga.com. You could also go to the Debeen Jiu-Jitsu headquarters website as well, and we'll be there linked into them. We're on Facebook. Again, Debeen 100% Jiu-Jitsu Wodonga. And we're also on Instagram, just the hashtag. Just make sure you put Wodonga in there. Otherwise, you'll probably see someone from maybe Ipswich. So there's a Debeen in Ipswich, Darwin. Yeah, so that's how you'll find us.
That's good, and we'll put links to all those in the show notes of the interview.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, George.
Thanks, Greg. Been great speaking. Speak to you soon.
Take care, mate.
Cheers.